In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, I wish to state on November 8th, 2024, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board and the Upper Township website, emailed to Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel Ledger of the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting and will be available on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct this announcement be made part of the minutes of this meeting. Would you please rise for the flag? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Corpson?
Present.
Mrs. Hayes? Mr. Knappen?
Here.
Mr. Pankos?
Here.
Mayor Newman?
Here.
All members are present.
Okay, before we start, we got a couple changes, minor changes to the agenda. This is the closed session agenda. Number one, what was you told me about?
The shared services
Of
agreement.
course. We have a contract negotiation with Dennis Township Courts. We also have, we're going to add under potential litigation, Prescott Avenue. And then I want to change the potential litigation from the Cape May County Agricultural Board to just an update on that settlement. So those are the changes to closed session items, mainly adding some stuff and changing the nomenclature. So just to rest assured, we are not involved in any litigation with the Cape May County Ag Board anymore. That's been settled. Your pleasure on the minutes.
Move we approve the regular and closed session minutes from October 28, 2024.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Knappen?
Yes.
Mr. Pankos? Mayor Newman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Reports of governing body members, and let's start at Vic.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out as always. Animal Control held our vaccination clinic. 56 dogs and 13 cats were vaccinated back on the 26th of October, so that was very well done. And Animal Control also responded to 42 different calls over the month of October, ranging everything from broken cat legs to raccoons, and everything was carried out very well. Courts are quiet, and that's all I have.
All the other end, Mark. Thank you. Kim.
Yes, sir. So just a couple announcements. The Upper Township Business Association is hosting their annual community night this Wednesday, November 13th, tomorrow, from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Upper Township Elementary School gym. That's usually a really good event. We get a lot of attendance there. So definitely if you're around, check it out. We also have, which I mentioned last meeting, the Ocean City Upper Township Rotary is having their annual community Thanksgiving dinner. This is open to all senior citizens in the public. The goal is to keep you from being alone on Thanksgiving. So they do an in-person dine-in dinner from 1 to 2:30 at Trinity United Methodist Church on Shore Road in Menorah. And then they also have takeout available from 12 to 1. And then last but not least, our annual Christmas tree lighting will be November 25th at 6:30 here. All the usual players will be present. We'll have Santa will make a surprise appearance. We'll have performances from the middle school band and choir, and also the Cape Chorale singers will also be here. It will be after our 4:30 meeting, so come out to the meeting and stick around for the tree lighting. It's a little bit early this year, but the way our meetings fell, it would have been kind of late to do a middle of December tree lighting. So it's technically before Thanksgiving, but it works.
That's okay.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Kurt.
I don't have too much tonight. I just wanted to caution everyone to be very careful not to steal some of Jay's fire funds here. We have had a little bit of rain, but not a significant amount. It is very dry out there. We've had a couple fires in Upper Township. Forest Fire, the state of New Jersey has had more fires since October 1st than they did the rest of the year. It's the busiest October they ever had. They've been running a little ragged. We had a fire that burned for almost a week in Seville, back in the swamp. It was an underground burn. They were surrounded. They did a fantastic job. They were there for at least 3 or 4 days, and then they went back 4 or 5 days later. So it was quite the adventure. And I'm just familiar with the area. It used to be a piece of property I owned.
We're going to load it.
They said, oh, they saw one of my deer stands there. You'd never see a deer after this fire. And I said, yeah, that deer are scared. And we were driving out. I was back with a forest fire truck because they were doing investigating and they wanted to know where the property line was. Needless to say, they're from here to the back of the room, this deer was in the middle of the road, right there in front of the forest fire truck. And I just want to hope everybody had a happy Veterans Day. I was not there for the Veterans Day, I was out of town, but it was a well-attended event, as always, and Jay hosted it and spoke, and I think it was a well-attended event, so thank you very much.
It is me. I'm the only one left. A couple things. First of all, Toys for Tots. As we usually do, we host Toys for Tots. That box will be located in the lobby of Town Hall through December 12th, 2024. As usual, that's the Marine Corps Reserve does that, but I think they involve other people as well. And they want a new unwrapped toy placed in that box, and they'll make sure that it gets to the people that need it. In addition to, tonight we're going to see a presentation to the Living Shoreline, and thank them for waiting a meeting. That was probably one of the better things that we could do regarding that. And I just want to kind of explain to everybody beforehand that this is one of those projects that it took us to to fund a company to get a grant, to get this thing done. So it's going to be almost entirely paid for by grants, if not entirely paid for by grants. A very, very good operation, and fortunately, we had the opportunity to do this, and we acted years ago, and this is good. This will be the end of the beginning anyway, for this, and that'll hopefully be put together.
This is a model we can use elsewhere in the township, too.
Yes, as we move forward. So, we also, on December 9th, which is the first meeting in December, at 5:30, I would like to, and I've requested that Administrator DeMarzo and Chief Coker and Deputy Chief Britton put together, we're going to do an awards night. We're going to honor some public safety people in Upper Township. Upper Township, several incidents have occurred in Upper Township this year that some of them might have extended from last year as well. And we're going to honor them in a separate ceremony. Rather than do the individual resolutions, which I thought was a pretty good idea, we'd rather have a presentation which the families could show up, the rest of the public safety personnel could be here, and we could read a narrative of what happened, because a lot of people don't realize what happens behind the scenes to move forward with some of these things that happen. The systems that have been put in place over the past 40, 50 years or whatever, and have evolved to where we are now, and they've resulted in a lot of lives saved. We have a lot going on out there that you don't read about in the newspapers, because a lot of times they're medical incidents, and we can't release some of that information. But there are also some of the ones that you do see in the newspapers, and there's some outstanding public safety personnel in our fire companies and our EMS. So what we're going to do, and some of our civilians, what we're going to do is anything that has occurred in Upper Township, okay, and involved Upper Township personnel, then we were going to honor them as part of an awards ceremony here. It'll be at 5:30, which gives us an hour before our meeting, our next meeting in December, our first meeting in December. So if anybody has Deputy Chief Britton is working on that, and we'll have more of a narrative event rather than a resolution. This is where for all, and whereas, and all this stuff. You guys will know what happened and how these people will be honored. You'll be quite surprised. So, pleasantly surprised. As Curtis mentioned, we had, there's been several fires, and the recent rain occurred Sunday. I don't know how much it was. It's about half an inch.
It's insignificant after the wind today.
Yeah, and the wind blows that right off. And I think that fire in Peach Orchard is still burning. And I just want to give another shout out to our own committeeman and Lieutenant Mark Pankos from the Ocean City Police Department. It's another place where they called the drone over. Put the drone up, found the fire, 5 minutes, 5 seconds. Put it up. It was a complete asset tool to us, and through the graces of the Ocean City Police Department, which we have mutual agreements with it all the time, back and forth to them, and it just saved a lot of time, trouble, and effort in finding that fire. Nobody knew where it was. I mean, if smoke was reported half a mile away. I mean,
That drone unit, I mean, there's been at least 3 or 4 instances in the last 3 months I can think
Just
of
in
off
Upper
the top of
Township.
my head, just in Upper Township, where, the Ocean City Drainage.
There was only 2 paths into that woods.
Both cut like you. But,
You had to
no
know
one
where
else
they were.
around said it too.
Yeah, well, kids found it, yeah, kids had found it.
So the drone was invaluable, especially at night, and the way the smoke was laying. So guys and girls, public, if you could keep that in your mind and in your thought when you're out there reading the newspaper articles and like that, if you see smoke, especially in this high fire area, like I think it was Monday morning or was it yesterday or Friday morning, one of the mornings we had a whole lot of smoke laying down low. That had to be Friday.
Friday,
In the area.
Saturday.
Yeah, I think it was Friday. That was coming from a Gloucester County fire. So it could travel a long way, it lays low sometimes, and the wind picked up and blew it offshore, which is fine. What we're looking for is heavy black smoke or any flames that you see. We definitely want the call. So that's...
If there's any doubt, call.
If there's any doubt, call. And we usually have, like that Friday, we had set stuff up with the rest of the fire chiefs in town. We made sure and made sure our dispatch center knew that we wanted to know if somebody insisted on seeing somebody, we would go out. But if somebody was just reporting smoke in the area, we would have to deal with it as being from the other fire. Okay. And I'm going to call on Deputy Chief Britton and Supervisor EMT John Carter to give a report on something that they, actually, John Carter requested that you have two seconds of our time. Give us a lowdown. Stand up, John. Identify yourself.
The township committee just approved the purchase, maybe within the last month or two, for our power-loaded and new stretchers. They have been installed in all our ambulances, and they have been working magnificently, and our employees are very grateful for the opportunity to have this equipment. So thank you.
So that not only increases the efficiency of patient care, what they are is they actually load the stretcher into the back of the ambulance, which was done by our personnel now. So it decreases the chance of injury on our personnel in loading and unloading stretchers, and increases the safety factor for the patient themselves, because that's, we don't want to hurt anybody as they're coming in and out of getting in. They're already got an ambulance there. We want to make sure they have a good, safe ride, and this is a big step forward.
It actually reduces manpower, because some of the larger patients sometimes need an assist.
Oh, yeah. And I've been there when that happened, and if they can get them on the stretcher, that thing can pretty much load in the back of the ambulance, which is very, very important. Okay, I think that's all I have until I find another note that I forgot something, but Gary, could you take us away?
Yeah, I just want to, again, Mark seems to keep quiet, but his departments are probably the most active. So right now, we're doing leaves relative to around county, Vaughan, Public Works, picking them up. The tree lighting, we're hoping to get the bells repaired. So Christmas bells, that system, we identified it as early 90s when it was put on from the municipality, and it took a little bit of time to find out the vendor and to track down parts and pieces, but we're working on getting that Christmas music ringing. Relative to another issue, the STL program, and Committee Panko sits on the IT committee, and STL is on the compliance issues with the state for the construction, so there'll be a portal on the website, and that's where the information will be uploaded by contractors, and you'll be able to track the various processes of your permits. And that'll also be a code enforcement element in there. Pictures will be able to be taken, everything will be emailed or mailed via the system, and payments will be able to be made as well through the portal. That leads to the 18, which is one of Mark's and Public Works' employees. So Mr. Keenan, who is a 20-plus year, right on, Brian, here, 20-plus, 20. He's going to drive a truck for us, but he's also going to be an ancillary sanitation inspector. So as the township grows and as our initial or immediate Rich Karzmarski goes on different assignments, is not available, we'll have Ryan relatively to be a sworn officer on the code enforcement side of sanitation. that leads us to how we ended up on the property next to the avenue. So there was a brush fire there was illegal dumping, there was illegal trespassing. All parties got involved, including the fire departments, the state police. The owners of the property were very facilitative in clearing out tons of debris and mess that was left there, and it is an entirely new vista if you go back there now. So
Gary being very nice. The owner had some motivation. Gary was
all motivated. All motivated. So yes, it did work out very well. That's all I have.
Really?
Yeah, and again, the last 2 weeks were spent implementing the union contract, the 5-year contract. So hats off to the clerk's office and the personnel office, the barber's office, because that document had to be updated with the 200% odd name on that list to now reflect the long-term agreement we had with the employee base, especially with ASME and our local.
Thank you, Gary. Joanne?
Just wanted to point out, we have the resolution setting the reorganization. It will be Friday, January 3rd at 6 p.m.
Tony?
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Barbara?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Very good. Ryan, I know you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things to touch on. First one being the athletic court resurfacing project. So plans have been finalized. Unfortunately, we hit a snag with the fencing improvements. The co-op costs are significantly higher than our local costs that we received from a quote. So essentially, due to that, we're going to be sending out the fencing improvements to bid. We're in the process of creating those bid specs. We already have the drawings, and we'll be sending out for advertisement over the next couple of weeks, if not a month. So expecting construction to take place early 25 after the cold weather. So hopefully by spring, late spring of 25, the athletic courts will be up and running. For Putnam Avenue, good news, we received extension from DOT for the grant amount. We are now in the middle of design work for the project and anticipating to go out to bid in February or March of 25, and then ultimately with construction in spring of 25, and hopefully wrapped up before summer in Stratton. Next one is skate park improvements at Amanda's Fields. So we received some comments back from the county. We essentially have to resubmit the application as a park and recreation application and make some plan revisions. We're in the process of that and are anticipating resubmission by end of November. Last one, just a quick update on the county New Bridge Road project, CR 628. They are proceeding with advertising in the end of this month, and then anticipating, similar to our other projects, they're going to be starting construction in spring of 25.
I do have one thing for you. I know that, and I think I asked you about this before, and I probably got the answer, but I forget. I'm pretty sure they are anticipating repairing or replacing or doing some major construction on the Cedar Swamp Bridge at Route 50, on Route 50, state, okay? I know in the public safety end of it, we have, that some of the detours are, it's going to be a huge detour. We need to make sure that public safety is 100% advised and involved in planning this. Okay? One of the poorest sight lines in the township exists at 631 and Tyler Road, where that comes out, and that's where one of those detours is coming out. And I think Mike Jones could attest to that. That's a very, very poor sight line there, and that is going to be a problem. And that's where one of the detours. Is that? I think they are. We just want to make sure that that's the way it is. And the public safety needs to be involved intimately in that. So it's going to affect all 3 fire districts. Mutually, all our stuff is going to be affected by it, as well as it's going to affect EMS on virtually every run they go on. So, in fact, every run they go, except if we're going out towards. I think that's what Mark just said, that they're probably going to put a light there, but it's still going to be, it's still an issue with the sight lines, because coming across that bridge, heading from Petersburg towards Marmora, even if there's a light there, it's going to be.
And there's sight lane problem at 631?
Oh, yeah, big time, and as well as Route 50 and Tyler Road.
Yeah.
So there's going to be issues there, and it definitely needs to be looked at from a local angle, not from a traffic engineer from the state who doesn't drive these roads.
Absolutely, and I know we had a previously a conference call with DOT, and they're willing to work with the township on that detour plan. I'll certainly be following up with them, but the last update we received is it's still in the design phase, so I think we're a little bit further out to construction. Still has not gone out to bid, and it's all they gave us was construction's anticipated to start in 2025. I would expect towards the end of 2025.
Because sometimes these things as well, all of a sudden it falls into place.
Yeah.
And
With all that
next
said,
thing
I'll
you
be
know,
following
yeah.
up to make sure we're involved on that detour plan.
For some reason, I had it in my mind we're going to keep one lane open.
They are, but I don't know which way they're detoured or which one they're
Yeah.
detoured, which way and down which road. No matter what,
It's a mess.
it is extremely difficult to detour people in the summer.
Oh,
Jay, that may have changed to keep it only open, because the last conversation I had, and I think it was down county, it's been a while. There's been new technology, and the way they're able to build things. They just pull out, pick up, and send it in one place.
That'd be great, but
Technology's coming.
it's like when a new model car comes out, you want to wait until they do it a couple times until Kim buys one and runs it around. and then they do it.
On the Route 49 project, is that one of the ideas that's being floated, to cut the time down, is to pull that off of 49 and send it back in one piece.
That'll be interesting, so.
We'll see how that one goes.
Just
be following
just keep
up.
public safety informed, top to bottom, if you could. Okay, that's it for report of governing bodies. We'll now open it up to the public. If the public would like to make any comment to the township committee, if you could please step to the podium and state your name for the record, Natalie.
Natalie Neese, for the record. I was concerned about the potential litigation for Cape May County Agricultural Development Board. I think you changed it and said that it's just going to be an update on a settlement.
Well, what it was is it's misnamed in there. There is no potential litigation. That's what I announced in the beginning. Tony, if you could take it from there. Answer.
Yeah, there was a settlement agreement reached with the County Agricultural Development Board that was sent up to the state, and the state board rejected the settlement for clarification purposes only, so they remanded it back and they want the record clarified, or at least some of the terms in the settlement agreement clarified, and sent back up for approval. So it's not going to have any change on the approval. It's just some clarification items that I wanted to update the committee on.
And that's on the CAD or the SAD?
Yeah, the
Okay.
State Agricultural Development Committee had looked at it, and they said there's some things in the record that we need to be clear on, so they sent it back for just clarification.
Okay. Well, it's still my concern that the township is not honoring the farmland assessment on this property, and I'm not clear as to why, and I'm not sure who is, but I brought a copy for Mr. Corson again tonight about the resolution from 2005, whereas the Cape May County Agriculture Board has granted final approval for the purchase of a development easement on property owned by William S. Johnson at the certified value of $41,500 per acre designated as 5.22 acres, Block 723, Lot 37, also known as 8 Bay Air Road, Marmora Upper Township, Cape May County, New Jersey. And it's my understanding that through the county, because the township approved this, and the county and the state,
Township don't approve that.
this was in 2005, and they were paid, Johnsons were paid to preserve the farmland at 5.22 acres, and they were paid for it. And when the Halperns purchased it, they bought it probably off a list of preserved farms for sale. So I don't understand why his tax assessment, and you say it's...
Can I clarify? I'm familiar with farmland assessment, my property.
Okay, well, this isn't just, I'm talking about the tax. You haven't given them the assessment. And I understand, let me say one more thing, okay? First of all, it's over 5 acres, and it's my understanding of the law that if you have less than 5 tillable acres, then you have to show product of $50,000. But if you have more than 5 acres, then you're at $2,500
You're
of
wrong.
product.
You're wrong on both counts. What it is, New Jersey, I have a preserved farm. My farm is preserved. I took the payout too. Okay, I get farmland assessment for taxes because I farm it. And the rule is pretty simple. You have to have 5 tillable acres. This 5.22 acre property also has a house on it and garages. The tax assessment and preserved farm are 2 different things. A preserved property is a preserved property. A farm has 5 tillable acres. And the threshold for 5 acres, the first 5 acres is $1,500, and then it's like $2 an acre after that, I believe. I'm not quite sure, but it's close. Might be a little bit more or less. So the thresholds are basically $1,500 on this property that they have to make in farming income. But it does not qualify for farmland assessment under the tax laws. The tax laws are different than preservation laws. The property's preserved. I will not disagree at all with you. The tax assessor, and there's an appeal process. They can go to the county board and appeal it. We can't appeal this. There has to be 5 tillable acres.
So, and my
It's pretty simple.
Let's,
And yes, I did sign the resolution. The township didn't authorize it. They were
ordered to.
No, it's basically the county, whenever they preserve a farm, they send the township committee a resolution. This is happening in your town. Do you agree or disagree? Yeah, we agree. We're all about preserving property. Nobody here, Jamie Newman was absent that day. That's why he didn't vote for it. Otherwise, he would have voted for it too, because nobody, I mean, honestly, on 5.22 acres there, they could have built 5 houses. We'd rather see it preserved. The assessment has nothing to do with it being preserved, or I could let my properties preserved, for example. I don't have to fill out the paperwork and get the assessment. I can let it go back to nature and never get a farmland assessment again.
Okay, so do you have anything else, Natalie?
I think I would disagree with what
Well,
he's
let's ask the legal
Maybe
counsel.
he
My
knows
wife-
about his situation,
You can have
but I
a-
don't think he's clear.
You can have preserved farmland and still be subject to tax assessment if you don't meet the requirements for farmland assessment. The assessor is charged with the responsibility of reviewing the application to make sure that the requirements are met, and that's having 5 tillable acres that are being actively farmed. And the assessor in this case makes a decision, and if the property owner disagrees, they can challenge it by going to the county tax board, not the county agricultural development committee. They have no jurisdiction over farmland assessment.
Can you speak?
Over farmland assessment.
Okay.
They can determine preserved farmland and authorize the acquisition of development rights based on that.
The
Can you
township
speak
would
to,
call it
can you
preservation
please
of
speak to
wood.
your understanding of a farm management unit?
What the definition of that?
I'm asking Mr.
Again,
Alonso
I
to
think we're
speak
getting
to
off- I
what,
think we're getting off topic because, again, Mr. Halpern has the vehicle or the mechanics in the law to go to the next step to decide this matter. So the township has made a decision. And if he'd like to go to the next step to appeal it, he can. That's what FA1 part of the process. So he has preservation. No one's stopping him from growing anything. He can grow whatever the man wants, but to get this designation, he has to meet certain criteria. The township said they didn't, and he goes to the next step. And I'm clearly glad that you're advocating for
The
it.
tax assessor, not the township. The
Our
tax
tax, our CTA. Right. Our CTA makes that determination, and then if he doesn't disagrees with it, he has a vehicle or a venue to express that. And I'm sure he's very happy that you're advocating for him, and you can share all this information with him.
My tax dollars paid to preserve this land, and
It's
it's my tax
preserved.
dollars that are also going to pay all these legal fees that have been going on for several years.
Not for Mr. Halpern. This has, his FA is not a part of any litigation. If he wants, if he
Again,
believes
I
that-
disagree with you, okay, but maybe you could speak to your understanding of a farm management unit as it,
I'm an educated
if
man,
it's
I can't
contiguous
speak
or
about
non-contiguous.
About farm management unit.
Okay, well,
So
I gave you a paper
my
there.
interest here is to kind of get you where you want to be with Mr. Halpern and advocating for him.
No, I wanted to understand where you all are coming from, and I think I heard what I needed to hear. Thank you.
But I'll pass this information along to the tax assessor, and I'm sure Mr. Halpern has that information.
Anybody else from the public like to speak? Anybody else?
Good evening, Mayor and Committee. My name is Michelle Johnson, for those that don't know who I am. I'm a Cape May County resident, and I'm the Deputy Tax Assessor for the Township of Upper. I have worked proudly for the Township of Upper for 18 years, 23 total in tax assessment. I respectfully ask the Mayor and each of the committee people to represent, and also the administrator, to carefully study in depth the salaries and the disparities of the pay scale for those employees who have worked many, many years. There are a handful of employees in the township that I feel their salary is not commensurate, my salary being one of them. It is my opinion that the township was once a well-oiled machine, and that I was, and still am, very proud to be a public servant of the Township of Upper. I continue to and will promote the many wonderful benefits the township has to offer, both on a professional level and a personal level as well. In recent years, increases of salaries and the procedural process that we have all experienced has been very strange and unprofessional, and literally uncomfortable, to say the least. Here's an example of improper titles. Personally, I was classified as a keyboarding clerk in the New Jersey Division of Pensions for the past 15 years, when in fact I've been working as a certified deputy tax assessor, also by way of resolution. This has been recently rectified by our administrator, Gary DeMarzo. Also, with regard to proper protocol, isn't it proper to invite a committee person that represents a particular department to a meeting regarding an employee's potential advancement? Example, Mr. Curtis Corson was not contacted, to my knowledge, or invited to several meetings regarding my position and discussions on advancement within the assessor's office. I come here tonight to request that you take a closer look at any new salary ordinances, and I ask respectfully for a fair and equitable study of the salaries, and I would recommend a desk audit be conducted of every department. The township has recently had too many employees leave, close to 14 wonderful employees. Morale has not been all that good in recent years. And so in closing, I thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else from the public?
Mike Jones, Upper Township Public Works Assistant Superintendent. And I just would like to say I highly disagree with the comment of the morale at Upper Township. Upper Township over the past 3 years has gone from a morale that was very, very bad to the morale of, I can speak for probably every department in this township, that it's as high as it's ever been. Thanks to the 5 of you that sit up there today, Mr. DeMarzo, and the other people that play an important role in this township. I've been here 32 years, and in 32 years, I've never seen the morale where it is to this day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so we will move on to, Joanne, you can announce the next.
We have the Strathmere Living Shoreline presentation.
I would probably, wherever you're
Mayor,
coming.
so she gets recorded.
Yeah, you probably need to go there, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Junetta Dix. I'm the Director of Environmental Services at Act Engineers in Memora, so it wasn't a long drive for me. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the Strathmere Living Shoreline project, and if you'll indulge me just for a few minutes, I'll give a little bit of background and some context that I think is important. The Strathmere Living Shoreline was initially conceived in October of 2022, and it was in response to the state-required climate change-related hazard vulnerability assessment, which at that time was made part of the municipal land use law. And the assessment was intended to analyze current and future threats and vulnerabilities from climate change-related hazards, increased temperatures, drought, flooding, hurricanes, sea level rise, and to identify how future development in the township might be threatened, to identify any critical facilities, life-saving, life-sustaining facilities, and provide strategies to reduce or avoid these risks. And in Upper Township's vulnerability assessment, it was current and future threats and impacts of the township were analyzed. A build-out analysis of future development was considered. Necessary critical facilities and infrastructure was identified. Design standards and strategies were also identified. And Upper Township ranked sea level rise, coastal erosion, disease outbreak, drought, and tsunamis as medium degree hazards, while floods, hurricanes, nor'easters, severe weather, and wildfire, which is pretty relevant, were ranked as high degree hazards. So the assessment back in the day projected a 50% chance of sea level rise by 2.8 to 3.9 feet by the year 2100. So if you're following the New Jersey PAC real rules, and I won't get on that soapbox, but if you're following them, the DEP used a 17% chance of sea level rise over 5 feet by the year 2100. They did not choose to use the 50% chance of about 3 feet, which is what Upper Township used and appropriately used for their vulnerability assessment. So as part of this whole assessment analysis, we realized that Bayview Drive was an area of vulnerability in the township. It regularly floods due to sea level rise, even just nuisance flooding, not necessarily storm events. And the marsh that's adjacent to Bayview Drive, from 1978 to 2021, that marsh has eroded about 9 inches per year. So it's quickly disappearing. And those bay marshes are they're our roadblocks. They're our first defenses against flooding and for flood resiliency. And when I do this talk to fifth graders,
I like to tell them that this is like shag carpet. Most fifth graders don't know what shag carpet is, but y'all do. So when the floodwaters come in your back door, if you have hardwood floors, those floodwaters come rushing across your hardwood floors. But if you have shag carpet, if you have that vegetation, if you have that coastal tidal marsh, then the floodwaters are dissipated and are slowed down. So those bay marshes are really our first defense. The township committed to, back in the 2022-23, to funding the design and the permitting of a flood protection revetment or a sill at the southern tip of Bayview Drive. And like you said, Mr. Mayor, we recognize that grant monies are rarely available for the planning and the permitting, but grant monies are available for the actual construction. So unfortunately, you have to pony up some money up front, do the planning and the permitting, and then eventually the grant monies, will come. So ACT Engineers was hired to do the necessary surveys. We did a bathymetric survey where we measured the water depths. We did some geotechnical testing. We did the design, and we prepared and we're ready to submit the permit applications. The design, and you have a handout and it's up on the screens. First sheet was the location, which you're all familiar with. This is the design. It's about 1,300 linear feet. It's proposed along the 1970 shoreline, so you can see how, since 1970, how far out the shoreline used to be and where it is now. The crest or the top of the revetment, and it sounds fancy, but it's really a number of different types of stone that, and I'm not an engineer, and they're scoffing at me in the office now as I describe this, but it's a number of different types of stone that are layered, and it's a revetment. It's a rock sill. The crest of the sill is about 4 feet, and mean or the average high tide in this area is about 1.5 feet. A higher high tide is about 2. So about 2 feet of the revetment will be visible even at high tide, because navigation and impacts to navigation are always, in our mind when we design these, even though they're close to the shoreline. The wave breakwater in this area is about 2 feet, so it was designed with all of those considerations in mind. You have the full setup, so we were ready. And then we got a call from the Strathmere Fishing and Environmental Club. And the Strathmere Fishing and Environmental Club called, and Gary and I were a little hesitant. We're like, this sounds too good to be true. And, if it sounds too good to be true, then, it usually is. But in this case, the Strathmere Fishing and Environmental Club was allocated about $1.5 million. Jeff Andrew appropriated about $1.5 million for resiliency projects. And Strathmere Fishing Club is the expected recipient. They still have to go through the grant application process. They've submitted that grant application, but it looks like they're going to get about $1.5 million. And so they called Gary and I and said, we'd like to take $1 million of this or so and put it towards the Strathmere living shoreline. So the thought that if you design it and you permit it and the grant monies will come seems to be, and I don't want to jinx us, but seems to be happening here. So their application is in for the grant money. It's not a matching grant of any sort. It's, here's the money. They're not willing to spend all of it on us. They are going to save some of it for monitoring and some other projects that they're looking at. The Strathmere Fishing Club has a member who is a very well-respected coastal engineer. And so we paused submitting the permit applications. We gave him the opportunity. We welcomed the opportunity. We got a free environmental coastal engineer review of our design. He had a couple of minor comments. We made those revisions, and the permit applications have since been submitted to the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. DEP has about 90 days to review it after it's administratively and technically complete. Army Corps is about 6 months. They can't issue until DEP issues, but they follow, right behind. We did a pre-application meeting with all of the regulators, state and federal. Once a month, they bring everybody, the DEP, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, National Marine Fisheries, NOAA, Coast Guard. They bring everybody to the table once a month, and they talk about these projects. And you actually have the PowerPoint presentation. It's a little outdated, but it was the preliminary, this is what we're considering, this is what we're thinking about. We floated it in front of all these regulators, and they all came back and said, yep, we think this is a great project, we think it will work, we think it's appropriate, we think it has minimal disturbance. You'll see it's not a uniform revetment. It has fish windows so that the area behind the revetment doesn't trap fish and juvenile fish. It has these fish windows, so it has flow between it. And the expectation and the modeling suggests that it will naturally accrete behind the revetment, and the sediment will build up and will restore our historic shorelines and have a project that results in some flood protection and some resiliency, to that area of the township.
Obviously, Fish and Environmental Club with the $1 million that they're, is probably not enough sufficient money, right?
It's probably not. We'll have to do some additional detailed geotechnical investigations, and then there's construction estimates. Ryan and I have asked that question, like, what's this going to cost to build?
Yeah, so that's something also Doug Gaffney is willing to prepare. But essentially, I think he said the $1 million will be close to doing the full extent. But essentially, they will provide that funding, and then we'll just cut the length at whatever extent we can provide. So we would start at the dock, and then ultimately, hopefully, get to the end. But if our funding runs short, we just end the wall at that location, and then look for additional funding to complete the wall.
Well, we actually, at one point, we put this out for bid years ago, or not bid, we looked for funding, grant money. And I think there's a lot of players at the table that would have funded money, like Ducks Unlimited, a whole bunch.
Absolutely. So even after we get the permit, we're still going to explore additional grants for the project.
And I think that's pertinent. I mean, if we can get, let's say, another $1 million and not maybe spend all that money.
Yeah, and then there's other areas that it can be used for.
With
Yes.
the Rush Jack and Causeways, we run every day.
Yeah. Yep. So that's our initial plan. I will say one item that I will need a motion from the committee tonight is, as Junetta mentioned, there needs to be geotechnical soil testing completed before construction. I know initially we wanted to include this, or ACT engineers wanted to include that as part of the design. The committee pushed back at that time. So now our plan is we'll get the permit and then push the geotechnical work as a construction cost. So the contractor will do the geotechnical work, and that would be funded either by Strathmere Fish and Environmental Club as a construction cost, or a potential another grant as a construction cost. So something the township then won't have to pay initially before permits are received. So with that said, it's an $1,000 fee for the application for the geotechnical permit, and that is the motion I really am requesting from the committee tonight.
I recommend that as well. And just to piggyback on Janetta's and Ryan's ability to push this forward, it was a very methodical, well thought out. The initial plan was just a boilerplate, and it had no real teeth or direction relative to what was being put together.
We have the funding available?
For the permit,
Yeah.
$3,000, yes.
I'd like to make a motion there, and next meeting we have a resolution authorizing $1,000 spending for the permit.
Second.
Somebody's got more in their choice.
Mr. Corson? Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes? Mr. Knappen?
Yes.
Mr. Pankos? Mayor Newman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Anybody have any other
I just have one
questions?
question, and I don't know if you can answer this. Are there any like short-term or long-term maintenance, that's required for this once it's installed in place or anything goes on?
We built the Shooting Island one on the, for Ocean City. There weren't any maintenance costs associated with it. There were, however, monitoring costs associated with it. So DEP wanted 3 years of monitoring, mainly topographic, mainly survey. Some critters, some biological monitoring, because the expectation is, in addition to this rock revetment that's providing flood resiliency, it's also providing some habitat value. And ideally, oysters and other, shellfish start, and algae and things start living there. Sorry. Yeah, so yes, there could be some monitoring costs associated with it, but we don't expect any maintenance costs.
Thank you.
It's probably more information than you wanted to know, the backstory, but I thought it was important to put it in context.
Timeframes and stuff like that.
Anybody else have any questions?
Well, I guess this rebutment will stop the erosion, or slow it down. Because right now, when the bank's eroding, like, we lost almost 100 foot of bank. And honestly, all that bank is right out there.
It's just gone.
It's in the middle. I mean, that's,
Right, you're absolutely right. That's what causes a lot of the dredging, issues, is the sediment that's eroding off of our marshes.
and it's eroding off the marshes for multiple reasons, storm damage, and also wave action from the boats and the jet skis and all that. And I think a lot of people, they slow down for the no wake zone for boats, but they're actually it should be reversed. Speed up where the boats are and the docks and the bulkheads, and slow down for the marshland. I mean, I think there's got to be
The intent is to create an armored shoreline and let the sediment accrete and build up behind it, and then the plants come and the critters come, and we restore, these coastal marshes. They're incredibly important. They're our first defense.
and what was the storm, not Sandy, but the one after Sandy? That's when we were flooded real bad. It all came in, it didn't come from the ocean or the fall. It all came from that way, right through Randy Rose's yard, everybody's yard, through the campground. That's how Strathmere got flooded. I mean, it all came.
Most of them were flooded.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Let's keep on moving forward there.
We have the consent agenda. All consent agenda items listed below are routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. If the mayor or any committee member wishes a particular agenda item to be considered separately, it will be removed from the consent agenda and acted on separately.
Move we approve the consent agenda, items number 2 through 21.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Knappen?
Yes.
Mr. Pankos? Mayor Newman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, right now, we're
Not there yet.
Under ordinances, we have the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 15, 2024, an ordinance establishing salary ranges for the Township of Upper for the calendar year 2024,
and what will be the,
December 9th.
okay. I'll move the introduction of ordinance number 15 of 2024 with a public hearing and final adoption set for the December 9th meeting.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Knappen?
Yes.
Mr. Pankos? Mayor Newman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Your pleasure on the bills.
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated in full in the minutes of this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Knappen?
Yes.
Mr. Pankos? Mayor Newman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Pankos.
Here to move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the township committee to enter executive session with following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Number 1, contract negotiation, special legal counsel for housing. Number 2, contract negotiation to assist 3, contract negotiations, CME Associates, Safe Routes to School. Number 4, potential litigation, Baby Drive. Number 5, an update to the Dayton County Agricultural Development Board. Number 6, personnel. Number 7, contract negotiation, shared services agreement for municipal court services. Number 8, potential litigation, Prescott. I also include my motion the estimated time and circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. A, it is anticipated that the matter discussed in closed session can be disclosed to the public upon determination of the township committee. The public interest is no longer disturbed by such confidentiality. B, with respect to appointment of personnel matters, such discussion will be made publicly when formal action is taken, or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. C, with respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased, and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. D, with respect to litigation matters, such discussion will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Call roll, please.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes? Mr. Nappen?
Yes.
Mr. Pankos?
Yes.
Mayor Newman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We will take 5, so Mayor